it's detrimental to label ADHD as a superpower because not everyone feels that that's validating. That's actually quite dismissive. I will never, ever, ever give ADHD credit for the amazing things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm taking credit for that. I'm not delegating that credit to ADHD. I've done that in spite of my ADHD.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Harless. I am so grateful that you are here today. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. You can find the show on YouTube where you can like and subscribe. You can find it on all the major platforms where, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to leave a review on Spotify or iTunes so more people can reach the show and this algorithm can find more listeners. So I'm really excited because I'm actually launching and have launched the Psychedelic Integration Accelerator, which is 6 weeks with me integrating your psychedelic experience, even before pre-integration and then preparing for the ceremony and then post-integration, or actually wherever you're at in that stage of the journey of your latest journey. Maybe even if you're just thinking about it, to have these sessions to prepare yourself for this endeavor, and because it is a big one. So I just want to share that with you all. And you can find that information at jesseharless.com. So I'm really excited about today's episode. I've been waiting for quite a long time. The episodes, we've been having episodes for 2 years now on the podcast, and I've been waiting to have someone come on and talk about ADHD. And boy, did I find the right person, Kristen Carder. And Kristen is the founder of the I Have ADHD podcast, which has like over 9 million views. It's been around for 7 years. She's really an expert in this field. And we really dove in, and it really hit me in the heart about my own journey with ADHD. So it's just such a personal episode for myself, but you're going to get to know Kristen so well through this. It's just, she has an upcoming book, but just all these things we dive into, all these areas, and we talk about her symptoms list and all these things that I think are going to be really helpful for anybody. This is an episode for everybody, truly. So I hope you enjoy. Hey, Kristen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jesse. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. I've been wanting to have a guest on to talk about this topic for quite a long time, and I'm honored that the guest is you, an expert in this field. And it's, yeah, just so many, that's why I love podcasts, because I have so many things selfishly I want to know. And instead of, going through I think you've had your podcast for 7 years at least.
Yes, it's been a minute.
Yeah. So I don't have to go and listen to 7 years of podcasts to know. I can listen to a couple, which I did, and then bring you on and ask you personally. So I'm really excited to dive into your story and everything, the brand that you built and all of it.
Amazing. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I would like to just start with, you obviously had ADHD yourself. And when did you discover that? And when did you sort of go, wow, this is my own personal quest, to then, hey, this is my calling?
Well, I was diagnosed when I was 21, which is actually quite early for a female. The median diagnosis age for female right now is 38. So I was very, very lucky to be diagnosed when I was. That came just through my dad being diagnosed first, and then him kind of nagging me about it. By that time I was in college. And I was like, whatever, Dad, you don't know anything, as most college students do. But it came to a point where I was completely drowning. I was overwhelmed. My grades spanned from A's to F's, as most ADHD people can relate to. And I was also struggling with massive amounts of anxiety, depression, disordered eating. It was just a mess. So I reached kind of a rock bottom, if you will, when I was in college, and I was diagnosed, put on a stimulant medication right away, which I was very grateful for, but I didn't learn anything about ADHD at the time. So it was just like, and this is so relatable, I think, for many people who have been through the diagnosis process, is like, yep, you have ADHD, here's the medication, bye, is essentially how that went. And so I didn't learn anything about what it means to have ADHD. I just thought it meant that I was distractible and impulsive. And that is true, but there's so much more about it. And it wasn't until my mid 30s when I owned a learning center in my hometown, and I was working with students who had ADHD, and I was just trying to figure out how to help them. And I was doing a ton of research, reading all the books. And at that point, I was like, wait a second. Wait. It was like learning that everything I hated about myself, all of the things about me that I thought were character flaws, that I thought were just like, like deficiencies in myself as a person, were actually symptoms of ADHD, like the fact that I'm always late, or the fact that I can't remember, just like very simple things, or I'm very disorganized. Like all of the things that I just always thought were character flaws were actually connected to ADHD. And so it was then that I was like, do other people know this? Like, if I didn't know, I kind of feel like other people probably don't know as well. And so that's when it became more of, actually, I went looking for podcasts over and over and over. And I was like, why isn't anyone doing this? Why isn't anybody talking about this? I think there were 2 podcasts, ADHD podcasts at the time, which now there's like 100, which is great. But at the time there were 2. I didn't really resonate or relate to them. They were fine, but they weren't kind of what I was looking for. And I just was like, gosh, somebody needs to start a podcast. And finally, after like a year or 2, the voice, whispered in my ear, like, maybe you should do it. So that's when it was like, very late 2018 is when I dropped my first episode, kind of threw it out into the darkness of the night, hoping nobody would ever listen to it because it was just so scary. And it just, it grew very organically. And then realizing that my perspective on ADHD resonated with people was really just wonderful. And then being trained as a coach and realizing like, oh, I've been coaching people unsolicited my entire life. I just didn't realize it. I've been coaching people against their, without consent forever. And so, it just kind of like evolved. It was a coming home process for me. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's really organic. And I think I can relate to that with the Entrepreneurs of Recovery podcast and kind of direction I went, which is still, I started in 2016, 17, but it's still really just finding its way recently. And so I can relate because people came to me and I was like, no, I don't want to share my story, but it was like, share your story, share your story, share your story, share your story. And then it became a book. And I know that you're going to be releasing a book next year, and I'm just kind of curious, like, what's that process been like, writing a book with ADHD and all this stuff?
Great question. I have a lot of experience writing because for my coaching program, I have written a bunch of workbooks. And before I even got into any of this, I had a blog, as most young moms did back in the early 2000s. Like, it was just kind of the thing. And so I really enjoy writing. It's not an intimidating process to me, but the idea of a book is very different from a simple blog post or, a short workbook for my program. What I'm realizing, I just wrote the last chapter, and now we have like the whole editing process. So like, I'm very happy that
Yeah,
the writing is done, but now I get to like learn the process of editing. But what I'm realizing is the time that I allot for writing, 80% of that is time spent convincing myself to write. 80% of it is, you can do it. Come on, maybe just one more walk, maybe just one more snack, maybe just one more cup of coffee. Maybe if I light a candle, maybe if I journal, maybe like, it's just like a whole process of like, how much support does it take to get me to do the thing that I know that I want to do? So it's been a real practice of self-compassion and of like figuring out how to not try to berate myself and like beat myself up into doing it. Come on, just do it. You know how to do it. You know what you want to say. You've already taught this. Why can't you just get it down onto paper? Rather than that, like, okay, what do we need today in order to get you to do the thing that you know you want to do? So it's been a real practice of figuring out how much support, how much compassion, how much kind of coddling, and I mean that in a positive way, do I need in order to get me to do the thing that I know that I want to do.
Oh man, this is really hitting home. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure I have ADHD because when I wrote my book, I mean, I had the same struggles, and I
Mhm.
can just relate so much. And I had to do like 7 minutes of writing sometimes, just like
Yeah.
7 minutes. That's all I could do, and I would just like all these stories and things would come up, and I'd had to be
Mhm.
in the right state. I had to do something to get myself to write, and oftentimes I can only do it at night. So I think it's yeah, I can relate. So then so anyways, like I'm sure people can pre-order your book soon. Is that true?
I think so. I hope so. It's not for pre-order yet. It's going to come out in October of 26.
Okay.
So we've got a couple months left for pre-order, but my website's ihaveadhd.com, and I'm sure we'll have stuff on there. So if anyone is listening and they're interested, you can head over there. I mean, I guess we'll probably put stuff about the book there, right? That would be the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much other stuff. I just with relating to this and writing and just trying to do projects and
Mhm.
having that happen. I mean, I think it's really relatable. Which I'm curious about how did you actually address the ADHD? Is it like is
Mm.
there the best method? Because right away when I hear ADHD, it's like medication,
Yeah.
stimulant, Ritalin, something like
Yeah.
that, or all. And then that's kind of the leading thing I would think of. And then,
Yes.
but what is truly helpful for ADHD, adults with
Mm.
ADHD, and what has been the path you've seen help the most?
Yeah. Well, research, decades of research does show that medication is like the primary thing that is helpful. And most of the time, it's kind of the gateway to being able to access other support. So there are other things that are extremely helpful, like therapy and coaching and exercise and diet and lifestyle changes and all that. But those other things take so much executive function in order to implement. And so those are really hard to access for someone who truly is struggling with ADHD unless they're medicated. And so, yeah, research does show that medication is like the front and center, kind of the gateway that helps. There are different types of medication. So there are stimulants, and that is the most often prescribed. But then some people don't react well to stimulants, especially if you're really high anxiety. That might not be a good fit for you. Um, I was on a stimulant for a while, and then after I have three kids. After I had my babies, and I was like, oh, I could probably do this without medication. And then I found myself day drinking. Probably not great. And just kind of realizing, like, oh, I am medicating, just not in a way that is supportive. And so it was when I realized that I was like reaching for wine at 2 p.m. to like self soothe and calm the chaos in my brain. That I was like, I think maybe I need to talk to a doctor and go back on medication. And I did try to go back on a stimulant, but it just wasn't a good fit for me anymore. So I've been on a non stimulant since then, and that's been wonderful. So non stimulant medication is also like a really good pathway for some people with ADHD. And because of the support that the medication has given me, then I'm able to access things that I know are helpful, like a supportive diet, regular exercise, coaching, journaling, therapy, like doing all of those other things are really, really important. But for most of us who are very ADHD, it's just not accessible. It's like telling someone like, "Oh, just make a list and cross things off the list." It's like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, but if I could do that, we wouldn't be here, you know? So, a lot of times medical intervention is necessary and appropriate. And ADHD is the most treatable mental health condition. It responds really, really well for most people. Um, and there's a high success rate, and that is wonderful. It's a very like hopeful condition in my opinion because of how well it responds to treatment. A lot of other mental health conditions just don't have the high success rate. And I know there's like stigma around medication and, like, well, it's over medicated, it's over prescribed. Those types of things, I know they're circulating. They're not really founded in fact or what we see in the research. And so, yeah, for the people that I support, I would say 90% of them choose the medication route. And most of them who don't have, tried medication. And truly, there's about a 10%, grouping of people who it's just not appropriate for. It just doesn't like they try different medications and none of them make them feel better. And we're always like, obviously that's the goal, right? We don't want to dampen someone's personality. We don't want to turn anyone into a zombie. Nobody's looking to like make you less of yourself. It should absolutely help you be more of who you really are.
Okay. Wow. This is good. I want to digest that. That's really
A
powerful.
lot. It's like
Yeah. And
drinking out of a fire hose when we chit chat. Sorry about that.
that's okay. And yeah, it makes me, I'm having a lot of self compassion right now because I really think I've struggled with ADHD like my whole life. And I've kind of been undiagnosed or just because I can just relate to a lot of the things that you're saying and just the patterns. But here's the thing is when I went and sort of researched it, and I know you like to talk about this,
Yeah.
is you hear it all the time, right? ADHD is a superpower. So that's what I heard. And then I got into personal development, all in, drank the Kool-Aid, and I read all the books and I have mentors in the space. And it's like ADHD is a superpower. ADHD. So it's like, oh, I don't need medication. I don't need to do these other things. I'll do this other route. So what can you say about ADHD and that whole thing about being a superpower?
That just breaks my heart. I just, I'm just holding so much compassion for you and for anyone else who relates to that because I actually have found in my experience, and I truly believe it's detrimental to label ADHD as a superpower. Um, it gets me really fired up. I'm going to try to keep it. Your vibe is just like so calm and soothing. So I'm going to try to match that energy. But I've got to tell you, it puts a fire in my belly when I hear that rhetoric because I have not found that to be true. And it is a very privileged perspective. So if you think about someone who does not have access to all of the self development, to all of the coaching, to all of the things that you've had access to, like a child in an inner city school struggling with ADHD, with no mentors, maybe a broken home, maybe no access to healthcare or the ability to like have resources to be helpful. How is ADHD a superpower to that little kiddo? How is ADHD a superpower to people who don't have access to coaching and to mentors and to so here's my perspective. Do people with ADHD have superpowers? 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. But every human does. I will never, ever, ever give ADHD credit for the amazing things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm taking credit for that. I'm not delegating that credit to ADHD. I've done that in spite of my ADHD. I've done that in spite of all of the experiences that I've had that have held me back because of my ADHD symptoms. I haven't done it because of my ADHD. I also don't understand why ADHD is the one thing, like with no other mental health condition, are we um are we do we have this urge to say it's a superpower? Oh, your depression is a superpower. Your anxiety is a superpower. Your bipolar disorder is a superpower. Like you would look at someone and be like, what are you saying? Why are you saying that to me? So in my mind, again, I get very passionate and listen, if this makes you angry, listener, I get it. I've talked to so many people who come and approach this in this way. Well, ADHD is my superpower. And listen, I'm never going to take that away from you. If you are like, this is my superpower, great. I'm not going to tell you that it's not. But what I will say is, let's not put that on the broader community, because not everyone feels that that's validating. That's actually quite dismissive. When I was working with students who had ADHD, I was working with students with all kinds of cognitive impairments and learning disabilities, and ADHD was just like kind of one of the things that I dealt with. I did keep attracting families with ADHD. And at the time, I didn't have much awareness. I was like, this is so weird. All of these students and families have ADHD. This is so strange. And now I just know I'm just like a beacon for it, like a lighthouse where people are just like, yeah, that just is the vibe. But at the time, parents would say, how do I tell my kid that they have ADHD? I don't want them to feel stigmatized. I don't want them to feel labeled. I don't want them to feel like they're at a disadvantage. And I will tell you, from a student perspective, they already are labeled. They're labeling themselves as lazy, as stupid, as not smart enough, as not good enough, as not organized enough, not just like not being able to keep up. Teachers are telling them, you're just not reaching your potential. You just need to do X, Y, Z, or you would be so successful if you could just stay organized. They're already receiving so many labels. So why not give them a label that makes sense? Hey, you've been struggling. We've figured out why you're struggling. It's not because you're dumb. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you've got an ADHD brain. And guess what? There's a lot we can do to help you now because we understand how your brain works. So instead of saying like, this is a superpower, you should be so happy you have it, which a student is like, what are you talking about? My life is so hard. Then a student is like, oh, I can understand now why I'm struggling. We have a pathway to support and help. And I don't have to think of myself, my character, my inner soul as being flawed or deficient. I can look at this one piece of me that's like, oh, I have this thing that makes life harder. And there's a pathway to supporting that.
Mm. Wow. All right, dropping the bombs. That's really, really powerful. Thank you. I that was one of the questions I was really waiting to have answered, because I've lived in this world. I mean, 20 years in personal development, and it's
Mm.
just like, I think it's been a real hindrance in many ways. And like you said, if someone's able to state that as this is a superpower and it works for them, oh my God, beautiful. That's
Awesome.
amazing. But
Right.
I think it could also be detrimental. And when I think about addiction, and I think about ADHD and addiction, where you think about all these things people call themselves. Oh, I'm lazy. I'm a piece of whatever. All these things. How much of that, when people turn to an addiction to numb out, is related to ADHD? So, what have you found with ADHD and addiction?
Oh my goodness, the research is so clear that people with ADHD are much, 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 much more likely. I believe it's 40% more likely, but we'll have to fact check my stats because my ADHD brain does not like to keep stats in there. Okay. But I believe that the latest statistic is that people with ADHD are 40% more likely to become addicted to substances. And I mean, I am living proof of that. Like I said, I was just a mom of 3 kids at home day drinking because I wasn't treating my ADHD. And here's the thing, ADHD is kind of circling back to the superpower conversation. It makes it seem so trivial when we label it as a superpower. It's so great. You have a superpower. And like you said, why would I medically treat a superpower? I wouldn't, because it's a gift. It's awesome. There's a book that came out recently. ADHD is awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, if that's how we're going to talk about it, why would anyone take the time, effort, energy, money to medically treat something that's awesome? Because it's awesome. If it's awesome, why am I day drinking? If it's awesome, why is my bank account at 0 all of the time? If it's awesome, why is the divorce rate higher? in people for ADHD, or the underemployment rate, or the debt rate. I mean, it's just like, so circling back to the substance use, yes. To answer your question, yes. And of course we're self-medicating. Of course we are, because our nervous systems are freaking out. We are highly distractible. We are highly impulsive. We, our lives are a lot harder because of these symptoms that are not being treated. Our relationships are a complete mess. Of course we are. I don't fault anyone for it. I don't fault myself for it. I'm sober now, by the way, 2 years. I'm very excited about
Congrats.
it. Very, very
Congrats.
happy. 2 years, December 31st. Um, but yeah, of course we're addicted. Thank you. Of course we're addicted because um, we need something. So
Yeah.
if it's not going to be medication, well, then it's going to be, for me, red wine.
Mm. Yeah. You made me think of too, like, Dr. Gabor Mate's work, and I don't know if you read his book on ADHD, but and maybe there's something I should know and what you've learned from that book and whether you agree or not. But before I go there, what I think of is his book, The Myth of Normal, and how we live in a society that in itself is abnormal. And I'm wondering how much of that leads to people with ADHD. And you think about, you know, AI now and the social media
Mm,
and the algorithms and what it targets towards you. I mean, it literally targets fear. It can target these things that you don't even, at the worst times, it's almost like it knows now. The AI is so smart in the algorithms. And so I'm just wondering how much of society and the foods and the things that
mm,
we are exposed to has really driven these rates of ADHD to all-time highs. What have you found
yeah.
with that?
I, uh, it's such a nuanced conversation. And what I will say is I wish there was more research on all of this, but I think I know why there's not, and it's because if there was, then society would have to take responsibility for it, and why would it want to? My belief that I am beginning to like flesh out and develop after like working with thousands of people with ADHD, and recently we just surveyed a couple thousand people with ADHD, and I I understand that like medical ADHD approach is that like it's genetic, and I mean we obviously see that it travels in families. It's as heritable as height, which is wild. And trauma travels in families as well. And when a child is not attuned to or co-regulated with, they develop an ADHD nervous system. I read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it was describing people with complex PTSD, complex trauma. And it listed all of the symptoms of ADHD. And I was like, wait a second, wait a second. Right. And so complex trauma looks exactly like ADHD. And can we pick them apart? I don't know. I've got more questions than answers. Gabor Mate would say ADHD is caused by trauma. Dr. Russell Barkley would say ADHD is genetic and it has absolutely nothing to do with trauma. And I feel kind of stuck in the middle of like, maybe it's both. Maybe there's a genetic component. I've also heard Gabor Mate say, um, what is it? It's like nature versus nurture. So nature loads the gun and nurture pulls the trigger. And I think that I feel like to me is kind of a balanced approach where it's like probably both and.
Mm.
Um, do screens cause ADHD? No. Do food dyes cause ADHD? There's not good research to show that. But do we live in a society that is constantly keeping us hypervigilant and undernourished and under what's the word for when you're like immobile, like not even moving our bodies?
Mm.
Yes, we live in a society like that. Must that have some sort of effect on us? I think so. That was a very long loopy answer, but I just don't think there's a direct.
Yeah. Well, I usually stack my questions, so that was a kind of a stacked deck there. But
Okay. All
I
right. So we'll blame
you
it on
answered
you, not on me.
yeah, yeah, it's
Sounds
my
good.
fault because you answered each part of it. So you talk about that ADHD isn't a motivation problem; it's a self-regulation disorder.
Yeah.
So my quest in the last few years has been figuring out like, oh my God, my nervous system is really the path here. And
Yeah.
so the path of healing the nervous system has taken its new course. And it's after I launched the podcast 2 years ago, it's been okay. Let's go on the journey of the nervous system. So
Mm.
when you say self-regulation disorder, can you speak to that a little more so I just can understand, the listeners can understand too?
Sure. So ADHD is a disorder of self regulation. We struggle to regulate our attention. So we have plenty of attention. We don't have less attention than a neurotypical person. We have plenty of attention. We struggle to regulate it. We struggle to keep our attention where it, quote unquote, should be for as long as it should be there. Right. So I have attention, but I'm using it to look out the window, or I have attention, but I'm using it to scroll on Instagram, or I have attention, but I'm whatever, I'm daydreaming, right? So I have the attention capacity, but I don't have the ability to regulate it on the task at hand. We struggle to regulate our behaviors, to inhibit our behaviors, to inhibit our impulses, to regulate what we do, what we say. And we very much struggle to regulate our emotions, which shockingly is not a part of the diagnostic criteria, which hasn't been updated in a long time. And there's so many issues with the freaking diagnostic criteria, but emotional regulation is not a part of it. And that is, it is a huge disservice to the community. So learning how to emotionally regulate will allow us to then make better decisions with our attention and our behavior. But it starts with emotional regulation. So let's say that someone listening might struggle with procrastination, which is a very common ADHD struggle. I just procrastinate. I just don't know why I'm procrastinating. It just must be my ADHD. I'm just such a procrastinator. But if we dig a little deeper, well, what is procrastination? It's avoidance. It's knowing that you want to do something, but putting it off, putting it off. Well, why am I putting it off? And if you sit with yourself long enough, it's usually because of fear. It's usually because of knowing that you're going to be bored when you do the thing, knowing how much effort it takes. So, like for me, with writing my book and that whole process, I never told myself I was procrastinating. I would always look deeper and say, oh, you just don't want to do, like, you don't want to have to experience the feeling, that hard work, boredom, intensity, just like emotional labor of writing this book. And that makes sense. You're not procrastinating. You're just not wanting to engage with that deep emotion. And I don't blame you at all, because that's not super fun. So how can we help you to regulate that emotion, to like feel it in your body and not try to run away from it, and not try to like snack it away or drink it away or Instagram it away.
Hmm.
So yeah, regulation is primary for ADHD, and really the foundation of that is emotional regulation.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I'm wondering with yeah, I was thinking of these things when I thought about ADHD, and then I noticed you addressed many of the things that like perfectionism. So
Yeah.
like what I was like, oh wow, when I heard perfectionism and ADHD, and then I noticed you had a course, but I'm curious the link between perfectionism because I think like a lot of people, especially really intelligent people, it's like we want to do something. We're
Mhm.
smart, we're brilliant, we're gonna. But then there's this thing about perfectionism, and it's sort of like you said that it's almost the thought of the thought of it more than like you could do it, but it's the fear, the thought
Yeah.
of you know maybe just with the work and the emotions around it. So
Mhm.
how does perfectionism tie into this and with
Mm.
ADHD?
Dr. Russell Ramsey is a psychologist out of the University of Pennsylvania, and he, along with another guy whose name I can't remember, did some research on adults with ADHD and found that perfectionism is the number one thought distortion for adults with ADHD. Perfectionism is pervasive among ADHDers. And there are two types of perfectionism. There's front end perfectionism, which is a lot of what I struggle with. And I'm just going to bring up the book because it's just like a great example. So, like, I want to write the book, but it's like a little cold in here. So let me turn up the temperature. My clothes are a little bit uncomfortable. Let me go change them. I should probably light a candle. Oh, there's dishes in the sink. Let me do the dishes first. Now, like, well, my kid just came downstairs. So I don't like, maybe I'll just spend time like making your environment perfect. And also, I'm a little bit tired today. It's probably not the best time for me to be writing, or I write better at night. Maybe I shouldn't do it during the day. I shouldn't even bother during the day. So it's front end perfectionism. Before I've even started the task, I have all of these perfectionistic things that I need to kind of like run through and make perfect before I even start the work. That's what I struggle with the most personally. A lot of us, though, struggle with back end perfectionism, which is, for example, the book is nearly written. I should probably spend some more time tweaking it. It's not quite right. Let me just edit and edit and edit and edit. And now my book deadline is tomorrow, but it's definitely not ready. So I'm going to email my publisher and I'm going to say, hey, I need an extension. And it's not because it's not done. It's because I don't feel done, because I am afraid to turn it in, because then I know that I'm going to get feedback from it. Right. And it's not all going to be good feedback. I mean, it's a great book, but it's not all going to be good feedback. So I'm going to have to expose myself and be vulnerable and be open to feedback. And so we struggle sometimes with both types of perfectionism, but usually it's kind of like, yeah, I see myself in the front end or I see myself in the back end. For me, it's the front end. Once I'm done, like for me, B minus work, good enough, turn it in, no problem. But for a lot of people with ADHD, we struggle a lot with rejection sensitivity, and that's a whole conversation in itself. But one of the components of rejection sensitivity is I don't want any critical feedback. That's going to make me feel like you don't like me, you don't respect me. I did a bad job. I'm in trouble. And this then circles back to our conversation on like how we grew up in our families, maybe some complex trauma, maybe rejection from our parents at a very young age. It's just all tied together in a very disturbing spider web.
Yeah, man, that was going to be my next question is, that's so helpful. I mean, I'm literally in awe right now. Like I feel, like I said, I hope if there's listeners right now that this is what they're putting the dots together for the first time. Cause I am right now on this episode. I'm realizing like I need to sit and integrate and re-listen to this episode and realize the compassion I need to have for myself, because I'm like, there's no doubt ADHD has played a massive role in
Mm,
a lot of the struggles. And I, you have to diagnose yourself though. Like no one was like, oh, Jess, here's what's going on with you. You have ADHD. No one does that. It's like, you have to diagnose yourself, unless it's like you have a parent or someone who's like, okay, we're going to take you to the doctor. You have ADHD.
yeah.
Like you have to self-diagnose almost. And I'm realizing right now that, oh my God, that this is me. And I, how many projects and things that I have wanted to complete that are still just not done because of this. And it's not, and if you talk to people who know you, they're like, oh my God, you're so smart. You're just going to crush it. And you've done this, you've done that. And I'm like, no, but I just can't, I can't seem to
Mm,
get it done. And then it's that self-fulfilling prophecy of like, well, it's me, it's my low self-esteem or dopamine, or there's something here. You just have that story when it could just be ADHD, and you
mhm,
just have to find these self-regulation strategies to get you going. And
mhm.
that's what I'm really having the epiphany here listening to you. Yeah.
I just want to hold so much space for that, because I think you're describing the experience that a lot of adults go through, where it's like, I feel like, sure, I've accomplished things, but there's a lot that I've wanted to do that I haven't been able to do. And the things that I've accomplished, I've had clients say that, they go to clinicians for a possible diagnosis and evaluation, and they bring up ADHD, much like you're saying, like, hey, I kind of resonate with these symptoms. And the doctor says, well, you're a lawyer. You can't have ADHD. Or you went to Harvard. You can't have ADHD. Or you're an entrepreneur. Look at all you've accomplished. You can't have ADHD, as if your intelligence and your work ethic have anything to do with ADHD. The question that I always ask is, okay, you've accomplished some things, but at what cost?
Mm.
What did it cost you? Did your behind the scenes look like your peers behind the scenes? Did you have to work twice as hard or 3 times as hard as your peers? Were you pulling all-nighters when they were sleeping soundly? Were you cramming for the test when they had started studying a week prior? So it is such an interesting experience as an adult. And then, like you said, you maybe mention it to people and they say either, oh, everybody has ADHD these days, like whatever, it's so overdiagnosed, like you're not falling into that TikTok crap, are you? So there's that perspective, or there's the perspective of like, well, yeah, you're distracted, but it's a superpower. Look at you. ADHD is a superpower. Use it to your advantage. Use it to your advantage, as if we get to just wave a magic wand and use ADHD to our advantage. Like, oh, I get to turn it on and turn it off. I get to turn on the hyper focus
Mm.
and turn it off when it's inconvenient or when I have to eat. And like, I mean, I support people who are like, they go 18 hours without eating because they're so hyper focused on a project that they can't pull themselves out of. They're not even listening to their own body cues. That's not, we're not going to call that a superpower.
Yeah, I think this is a big reframe for many people and for myself. I've done that. I'm like, I can be really extreme, and I think
Sure.
the extremeness is because of that. It's like I have to find these ways to be able to do the work, to be able to do. And yeah, and then when you go out and seek answers to it, it's like, it's just, you know what, you just didn't do enough meditation. You just didn't get yourself in the right state with the cold plunge. You didn't do this, you didn't do, and it's like, and then I believe him. And I go, okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to do the cold plunging every other day. I'm going to do this. And I do all these things, but then I go to do the project again and it's still not, it's not
Yes.
happening. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's related to that. I mean, the cold plunge helped me for other motivation, but
Sure.
so yeah, this is, I think a big
And
re.
what that does is it puts even more responsibility on you. It's not exactly this, but it's almost like victim blaming, where it's like, oh, you just like, obviously your diet needs to be tweaked, Jesse, if you're distracted. So now, not only are you struggling, but now you have to go figure out a brand new diet. Or obviously, like, yeah, you need to cold plunge now. So not only are you struggling, but now you have to add in all of these other things, which take a lot of your executive function. In the like mental health space, we talk about spoons. I don't know if you've heard of spoon theory, but it's essentially like, oh gosh, again, me with the name. So I don't know whose this is, but if you Google spoon theory, it's going to be right there for you. And it's essentially like all of us have a different amount of spoons at the beginning of the day, depending on like, this was actually developed by someone with chronic pain who is trying to explain what it's like living with chronic pain. And it essentially, like, we don't wake up the same. I don't wake up with the same amount of spoons as the next person. But what I talk about, I don't struggle with chronic pain, thank God, but I do struggle with executive dysfunction. And that means that waking up, taking my supplements, exercising, getting my kids out the door, taking a shower, deciding what to wear, put on makeup, do my hair, figure out what to eat for breakfast, pack a lunch, gather my things, get into the car. That's like 27 things that need to be done before I've even started work, right? So I get to work, I'm spent, I'm exhausted. I'm not even like, it sounds dramatic because it is dramatic, okay? Like I resent it. It's so hard. So for somebody like, and I am medicated. I have a great regimen. I feel like when I feel amazing, and it's still really hard. And so you take out the medication, you take out all of this structure that I've put in place for myself, and you say like, well, you just need to change your diet. Well, now you've just added in, now I have to meal plan. Now I have to go and get specific things. Now I have to meal prep. Now I have to remember to bring, it's like all of this extra stuff that you're putting on your plate. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be helpful, but I am asking, is it fair? Is it fair to say to someone who's already struggling, well, you just need to exercise every day? Well, yeah, no shit. Like, I obviously everybody should exercise every day. How hard is it for me to get myself to exercise every day when I'm already struggling so much with my executive dysfunction?
Mm. Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah, this is just like really, I must have my heart must be really open or something, because my
Mm,
brain would sort of just look for the next thing to ask you and move
mm.
on, and I'm just like, whoa, it's really landing in my body, and I'm really paying attention to that. And so if someone has, they are relating to this episode, they're like, okay, whoa, this is, I think I've had ADHD for a long time, and I've labeled it as all these other things. What is what's the biggest internal shift to have the self-acceptance to be
Mm.
like, okay, I have this. What's that internal shift sound like?
I think it's a process of gathering information from trusted and reliable sources that will tell you the truth, and then allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to like identify with it in a way that doesn't make you the problem. Again, it's like, because so much of our narrative around this is like well, if I could just get organized, then I would be fine. If I would just stop being lazy, then I would be fine. If I could just wake up to my alarm, then none of this would happen. So I need to solve that problem. I need to solve the problem of waking up to my alarm. Or I need to solve that, like, if I could just stay faithful to my spouse, then I wouldn't have relationship issues. So I'm a piece of crap because I can't do that. Right. So it's like all of this, again, it's like self-blame, all of this self-blame. And if we could just take that and assign it to the right place, be like, hey, it's not you. You've got this thing. It makes your life a lot harder. It's not an adorable, cute little superpower. It actually is very damaging when not treated. And even if it's not damaging, it absolutely makes life harder. So ADHD is a spectrum. Some people have just a little touch of it. Other people are completely debilitated and have access to accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it kind of runs the whole gamut. But understanding that, like, if you can truly stop blaming yourself, that's really what it takes, is stop blaming yourself and start assigning the blame in the appropriate place. Then and only then can we say, okay, maybe I'll go get this checked out.
Mm. Yeah, it's powerful. I'm my podcast has been really dedicated, with a lot of episodes, to the healing potential of psychedelic medicines. And
Mm.
I'm wondering, I brought on a lot of amazing guests in the space, and I have a lot more to come. And I'm excited for these episodes. And one of the reasons is because I've utilized them myself, and I did it really surgically, because I was 15 years abstinent in AA, no messing
Mm.
around, black and white thinking, which is totally fine and can save many lives. But I eventually branched out to look at this complex trauma and the stuff that I was holding, and I utilized psychedelic assisted therapy, which I found in the last 4 years to be extremely beneficial for me. And so when it comes to ADHD, what have you found with psychedelic medicines and support? Has that been something helpful?
I don't know anything about it. I really don't. This is one area that I haven't explored. Um, I don't really know anything about it, but I can see and I can imagine how it would be extremely helpful, especially my belief is that everyone with ADHD has experienced complex trauma. That is not research based. That is just Kristen Carder. Okay. So that is not like we're not going to find that in a study anywhere. But we are going to find that in my opinion. And that's what it is. So I can imagine that psychedelics would be extremely helpful in those ways, like in healing complex trauma for somebody with ADHD. I truly don't know enough about, you know, in general, if it's going to help somebody with ADHD. It's kind of an area, Jesse, and I will be vulnerable right now, where I've just been like, I don't like, there's so much to constantly read and learn and keep up with. And this feels new and scary to me. And it's just not an area that I've explored personally.
Yeah, that's fair. I bring it up just because there's a lot of talk in the space about microdosing
Mhm.
and helping with ADHD,
Mhm.
microdosing psilocybin
Mhm.
specifically. So yeah, I'm still learning. I'm going to look into bringing some more guests that,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of research, even with the effectiveness of microdosing. It's really, it's really anecdotal, which is totally a way to absolutely get research. That's really helpful. Um, but yeah, I'm just curious as it becomes more and more and more of a thing I hear. It's just okay, where's the research and how do we know it? I
I
don't think we
think
have
there's
it yet.
such Okay, I will say that in some ways I'm totally a conspiracy theorist in that I think that research is going to be a long time off, because why would the powers that be want there to be any other solution than medication? So even though I am like, yes, meds are awesome, meds work, I also know that like the $1 billion industry that is big pharma, like I know that they've got an agenda. So in one hand, I'm holding the truth of like medication works. It's amazing. It's helping me currently. I have 2 of my 3 kids are medicated. It's a decision for me that I can see them thriving. There is no doubt about it that it has changed their lives for the better. And I would love for there to be another option, and I can see why that might be suppressed.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
holding both of that.
until big pharma buys up the companies that are the patenting
Isn't that the truth?
psilocybin that
Yep.
which is happening literally.
I didn't know that
You
was
know,
happening.
I don't think that you're going to see, like you said, you're going to see this thing as a way to treat it until they have a
Mm,
really firm hold on each of the patents that can be, because obviously psilocybin you can just grow in some shit and then have it. So I think they're going to have more of a say in that. So I agree. We're not going to have the studies that are hundreds of thousands of dollars until per study, unless we can, or they can have some type of control of it. So I believe that 100%.
right.
So we'll have to see maybe in a couple of years where that all ends up.
Mhm.
But for now, we have other ways, and we
Yes.
have your research and the research of others that you have mentioned that we can utilize. And I think that's what's really
Mhm.
important. There's a lot of hope already when it comes to treating ADHD, and I think that yeah, I mean, isn't it like ADHD to me is like the most talked about thing. Like I just hear it so much talked about. And like I said, I'm so grateful to have you as my first guest to talk about it.
Mm.
So like I talked about self-diagnosis and I'm sort of like, wow, I'm gonna do way more research after this episode and even, just dive into some more of your content for sure. But like what do you think is the biggest risk with ADHD being so popular and modernized? Like what's the biggest risk with that, with this?
It's so interesting because, like I said, this was probably back in 2015, 2016. Nobody was talking about it. Like, I was like, why isn't anybody talking about this? What is going on here? Right. Like, I was researching and I was learning and I was figuring all of this out. And I went and looked for people. And I just remember going to people's websites and being like, these websites suck. Like, nobody is, um, yeah, like the website sucked. The there were only, like I said, 2 podcasts at the time. Neither of them, they're great podcasts, but they were not for me personally, right? Like I wanted a podcast that like I resonated with, that I thought was amazing, and I just couldn't find it. And now fast forward almost 10 years and it's like it's everywhere. And I have thoughts. I have thoughts about it. I think there's some really good things about that. A lot of people are learning about themselves through TikTok, through Instagram, and being able to share things like that on social media and share your lived experience and share about ADHD. That can be really, really helpful, because then you watch a reel and you're like, oh my gosh, like I see myself in this. Maybe this is something that I'm struggling with. On the other hand, people have figured out that it's a hot topic and you can make money off of it. And I say this as someone who's making money off of it. So I understand how incongruent that sounds. But I just feel like everyone is turning it into their personality. Everyone is like shifting, not everyone. I'm using very broad brush strokes here. I have somebody in mind. I probably shouldn't name her, but just like a popular podcaster, an author who just like all of a sudden now is shifting into like, I have ADHD and let me talk about ADHD. It's because it gets clicks, and it's just like, it's disheartening to me. That part is disheartening. I just feel like you really need to be discerning when you are watching and listening to people and learning from people, especially if ADHD is not their profession, but they are kind of making it their brand in a new way. Or it's not really their job or something they've studied, but they're realizing that it gets a lot of views, and so they're going to talk about it. That to me is like, it's a no. That part's a no from me. But I definitely think there's good in the awareness spreading. So it's a double-edged sword for sure.
I bet I could guess who you're talking about if I had one guess.
Say it.
Mel Robbins.
Oh, God. Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. I cannot, for so many reasons, for so many reasons. But the red flags, the alarm bells, they're all sounding very loudly. And then to have that brought into the mix, and putting out information that's not even factual about it, I struggle.
Yeah, I hear you. Like you said, double-edged sword. Like she has a big platform and reach, so her talking about it may help people find your work, and
Mhm.
so it is a double-edged sword. And maybe I'll get Mel on and just be like, "Hey, listen, we got to call you out." And so,
Definitely. You should definitely do that. That's
all right,
amazing.
all right.
That's
I'll
great. I
think
can't believe
about
it. Wow. Good. Fabulous intuition.
Yeah, it's crazy because I read one of her books and I know she's got a bunch of others and has a huge platform, but I really don't follow her work. I mean, some of my
Mm,
mentors do, and the people I
mm.
look at, and I just knew right away for some reason. I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who this is.
That's wild. I love it.
Yeah. Well, this is an opportunity for her to come on the show and
Okay,
come on
great.
your show.
Mel, would love
Yeah.
to chat with you.
Yep. That's what we're saying right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, this has been like extraordinary. I'm super excited that we're
Mm,
connected, and
mm.
I'm excited to bring you back on when, if not before, but your book. I mean, I'd love to
Yeah.
bring you on to support the launch of the book too.
Mm,
And
thanks.
I know how that process can be, and it's such a process, and I mean, especially with ADHD. So I relate to it, and but I am curious, like, what are you most excited about manifesting right now, bringing to life?
I feel like this, does the book count? I'm not sure, because we've been talking about it this whole time. Right now, honestly, I am parenting older teenagers. And so, truly, like from my soul, what I'm most excited about is watching my boys grow into men and becoming the people that they were always meant to be, and watching them thrive in a way that I was never able to at their age, and have resources and support that I never had access to at their age. And so I feel like sure, the book would be a very easy answer and pretty obvious, but I think what I'm really most excited about, I have a senior. So he's 17, he's going to be 18, he's graduating from high school, he's like moving on with his life, he's growing into a man. And just watching that process is absolutely incredible. It's also terrifying. And I hate the process at the same time, right? It's like there's so much anxiety and control issues and such a mirror being held up to myself with all of the things that I need to work on. But what I'm excited is like manifesting these like really good men into the world to be leaders in their own, wherever life takes them.
Oh man. Well, they're lucky to have a mom like you. This
Mm,
is I'm excited for them. And
thanks.
yeah, I have nephews that age. I have and so yeah, I just think about them when you're talking about that and their lives and just hoping, you know, even me with the platform and
Yeah.
podcast interviews with you, like that they can maybe take a sneak peek at some of these episodes and just can hear some of this as they go. Inevitably going to have some struggles with,
Yeah.
that age and then going into college potentially. And just, I had so many struggles from 18 to 22. Those are like the hardest
Yes.
years ever. And so I have a lot of compassion and,
Mm.
so yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome.
And how can people find you and reach out to you, work with you?
Yeah. So I host the I Have ADHD podcast. So obviously you're a podcast listener, you like podcasts. So listen to Jesse's podcast. And then when you're done, hop over to mine if you're interested in learning about ADHD. It's been around for a minute. So we have hundreds of episodes, but surely I'm sure there will be episodes that would be interesting to you. And my website is ihaveadhd.com. And if you are like resonating with this conversation and just wondering if maybe ADHD is something that you are struggling with, I do have a symptoms list on the website that you can download. And what I always suggest to people is spend some time with the symptoms list, circle things that you feel are a struggle for you, write down memories that you have of those like specific symptoms, in your childhood, in your adolescence, really begin to build a case for whether or not this is something that you struggle with. Obviously, a clinician is going to be ruling out other things. And, that's their job to kind of parse out whether it's ADHD or maybe something else. But when we sit face to face with a clinician, it can feel very overwhelming and intimidating. And all of our working memory goes out the window. So all of the things that, all of the memories that we have, they're gone. So when somebody asks you, like, well, how did you see this in your childhood? And you're like, I don't know. So that's why I always say, spend some good time with the symptoms list. Write down memories that you have. Maybe if you have a relationship with your family, ask your family members about it, ask your partner, your best friends, like, hey, have you seen this in my life? And just, sometimes it can be really funny and fun to like have those chit chats about the past and like how things get brought up. I find though that like a lot of parents actually resist conversations like this with their kids because it makes them feel like, well, like, no, you were perfect. You were fine. You had the best childhood ever. And it's like, okay, like, this is not going to go anywhere. So it really depends on the type of parents that you have. But yeah, I would absolutely say spend some time with the symptoms list. And yeah, you can find everything about me on my website, ihaveadhd.com.
Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes. I mean, we'll link the symptoms list too
Oh,
that they
cool.
can sign up for and get and for free, which is
Great.
amazing. And yeah, okay. Well, this has been a pleasure. I'm so grateful to meet you in person,
Mhm.
virtually, and I'm excited for your content
Yeah.
and to explore more and also to bring you back on the show and talk about your book and all these things. So it's been a real pleasure. I have a lot to think about myself after this discussion.
Mm.
So I really appreciate you.
Amazing. I've had the best time. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. I'm so grateful you spent the time with us today. If you could take a minute to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube and leave a review on Spotify, iTunes, I would appreciate that. We have so many amazing guests, so many more amazing solo episodes to come. Thank you for tuning in.